My lesson this morning is one that I want to share. You know, I'm all about parables, right? And the metaphor found in parables. And the parable I want to share with you today is not one out of the scriptures. It's one that I wrote actually about 8 or 9 years ago in my book called The Art of Being, 101 Ways to Practice Purpose in Your Life. And the parable, keep in mind that as I read this, we're going to be looking for the metaphor, the idioms in it, realizing that every person in the parable is some aspect of you. And so as we read this, I want you to continue to explore, ask yourself, is that part of what he's describing there live in me? And as we go, you'll discover that you'll become more and more aware that you're on a journey. The title of the lesson is are we okay? The view from the freeway isn't that good. I love this quote by Goethe because it sets up what I want to talk about really well. The heights charm us, but the steps do not. With the mountain in our view, we love to walk the plains. You know, what he's saying is that it's, action is a little more difficult sometimes than others to put rubber to the road and move in the right direction. Yeah, it's easy to stand and look at the mountains in the distance, and of course the mountains are metaphor, right? So here's the parable. There was once a large group of travelers who were seeking to enhance their view of the country in which they lived. They wished to know all of it more fully, and the distant mountains called to them silently, promising them a view that would change their lives forever. Hint, hint. There's a hint there for you. They set out with excitement down the road, the wide 4-lane freeway in their comfortable motorhomes, heading toward the mountains. As they reached the foothills, the freeway ended and turned into a dirt road, which they followed until it became so narrow that their big, comfortable motorhomes could not go any further. So they set up camp there. Yet there were those who wanted to go higher, knowing the view would even be better, and so also would be the reward. So they set out on their 4-wheel drive SUVs. Soon enough, they too could go no further, since the path to the top became even more steep and narrow. But at least they could look back and see their friends in the valley below. So although the view wasn't that great, they were content with where they were, and they set up camp. Are you located where you are yet in the story? Then those who had trail bikes and yearned for yet a greater view rode up the path until it grew so narrow and steep that they too could go no further. They shouted and waved to their friends below and settled for the limited view, which was very nice, but there was still something missing. Finally, the one last traveler knew that if he could just hike the extremely narrow path and eventually climb the rocks for the last bit, his view would be unparalleled and magnificent, and so too his reward. As he reached the top of the mountain and surveyed the entire country below, he felt sad for his friends, who by their own limited efforts had settled for less and would never know the awesome view that he had attained through his persistence and commitment. Operative words, persistence and commitment. Then a deep inner peace swept through him that he had never known before, and of course, instantly his life was transformed and he lived happily ever after in eternal bliss at the end. Now, there's one more paragraph I want to read to you because it really is applicable to where we're going, okay? Of course, this is a metaphor, right? For spirit, the mountain represents what? Our spiritual truth. How high we want to rise in consciousness to experience our oneness with it, right? Practicing spirituality at the level of a motorhome consciousness is not a discipline. It's a matter of convenience. When it becomes too much an effort, we set up camp in the flatlands and the flatlands of consciousness and go no further. Of course, the ultimate view we all seek is a clear view of our life through God's eyes. This is the journey into your own God consciousness. Now, which of those travelers would you call yourself today? Motorhome traveler? On your spiritual journey? Our SUV, Jeep, go look for the path? Mountain bike moving further, or the one who gets off on the, because the higher we go on the mountaintop, to the mountaintop, the more narrow the path gets. Can I get a witness for that? But what does that mean? It means it's more challenging to stay on the path, right? So, where's my graphic there? This is a picture I took in Machu Picchu in Peru a number of years ago. And this literally, you can see there's a trail up to the top. This is the highest point. We were already at like 13,000 feet, right? And this very athletic people, grace shape, decided to hike up to the top of that. It took them a couple hours to get up to the top. And there they stood and screamed at the top of their lungs, victory, because they had done this amazing discipline of following that entire path up. And what I want to talk to you about is getting from the base of the mountain to the top of the mountain. That's a metaphor for consciousness or oneness with God. Can I get a witness? Yeah. The most powerful aspect of being 100% committed to anything is that it sends a signal to the universe that we are serious about being the place where authentic power reveals itself in the human condition. That's a quote out of one of my other book there, of Uncertainty. My point is this. You are each somewhere, if you're in this church today, right? Where are you on your spiritual journey? Are you in the freeway? Metaphorically, the motorhome consciousness is what? It's convenience. And if you were translated into a spiritual experience, maybe it's showing up at church 2-3 times a month, right? What does the SUV, the Jeep, imply? You went a little further up the mountain. Maybe it's you take an occasional class. You're doing something to continue to get up further up that conscious awareness of your presence, your oneness with God. And the further you go up the path, the more narrow and the more challenging it gets. They say the spiritual pathway is very challenging to walk. Why is it? Because it requires commitment. It requires discipline. Ooh, those send chills down my back. I don't know about you, right? So, what I did this morning, because I didn't have a lot of time to think this through for you, I went outside at about 6:30, 7 o'clock, with a cup of coffee, and I have a beautiful meditation garden right on the waterway. I got a Buddha there and some beautiful plants and flowers and whatnot. And there's a nice chair sitting right in front of Buddha. So I sat down and I meditated. And I really was open to hearing, okay, what are the things that I can give you this morning that would be applicable to your life, that you could use them to move further up this pathway of the realization of your oneness with God. Because the top of the mountain, what does that symbolize? Full God-conscious awareness. Yeah? And so I was in meditation for 5-10 minutes, and I came out, and there's Buddha right in front of me in the garden. Look at me right in the eyes. And I says, okay, what do you have to say about this? I needed some support, Buddha. And he says, little grasshopper. He didn't really say that, but it's my interpretation of my sense of what Buddha would say to me if I was sitting with Buddha. He says there's 3 things that you can share this morning that will give everybody present who's willing to pay attention to move further up the pathway of their own spiritual evolution, their spiritual growth, their awareness of their oneness with God. Because let's face it, it's pretty easy to go unconscious in our society and forget about our oneness with God. Can I get a witness for that? So Buddha gave me 3 thoughts that I will share with you now. And the first one, he says, is, and this is very important for us to get at every level. If you want to move further up the pathway in the realization of your oneness with God, do not judge. Practitioner today already mentioned that. What does judgment do? Judgment drives a wedge between ourselves and the awareness of God's presence. I mean, God is still present, but we cannot experience the presence of God and cast judgment on anybody, including ourselves, at the same time. So the minute we go into judgment, realize that you fall off the path. You fall off the path. So how do we become aware of when we're judging? Because let's face it, it's pretty seductive. Judgment is a real seductive thing right now. You turn on the TV with politics and all the great things going on in the world there. We tend to rush to judgment about it, yeah? Okay, well, so the point is this. What can you do to become aware of when you are in judgment? There's a great difference between judgment and discernment. Judgment has feelings, emotional entanglements with it. You'll know when you're judging because you'll feel emotion around it. Okay? Discernment is an observation without an opinion. It's seeing what is and accepting it as it is with equanimity, not being pulled forward to it or pulling away from it. It's just observing what is. So the next time you find yourself judging others, and this is not just about the people on TV or the news, it could be somebody that you work with or the person in the grocery store. It's so easy to find targets for our judgment when we're on mission, yeah? And so be aware of the feelings, the emotions that arise with that sensation, and you realize that you are in judgment. You cannot be in judgment and also experience the presence of God at the same time. So take a breath in that moment, forgive yourself, and come back to God is, I am. And therefore, whoever I have been judging is to heal the separation. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. And by the way, that includes gossip. Oh, gossip is so juicy, isn't it? Yeah. But it is, it'll pull you way off the pathway. So when you find yourself caught up in judgment, say, excuse me, I got a mission here, I'm back on the path. God is, I am. God is. Here's the thing about gossip. The people that you'll gossip with will also gossip about you to somebody else, right? So just be aware of it. And again, these are all practices to help us stay on the pathway with intention that moves us further up the path. The higher we go on the path, metaphorically, the top of the mountain is the absolute awareness of our oneness with God. Wouldn't you love to live there? Yeah. Of course, it's challenging to live at the mountaintop, but we can visit it on a regular basis, yeah? With awareness. Okay, the second thing the Buddha told me this morning is be mindful. Be mindful of two things. What you put in your body temple and what you put in your mind. Yeah? Well, let's face it, we put a lot of things in our body temple that are toxic. And when our bodies get toxic, it's competing for our attention. We cannot focus on the awareness of God's presence. And we can say that even in a more fully developed awareness about emotional toxins. Of course, it goes back to judgment, but other things too. Watch what you put in your mind. Watch what you're consuming with your mind. Rather than turning on the 6 o'clock news, maybe what you want to do to feed your mind is to pick up a book that you know has spiritual foundation in it. Watch the kind of movies you watch on TV. You know, and in the movie theater, are they feeding your mind something beautiful and healthy, or is it poisoning your mind and your body? Just be aware next time you put something in your mouth, ask yourself, is this honoring my body temple? You know your body's a temple, right? And I shared this last hour. For many years, I considered my body to be a reasonably well-maintained religious science youth center. Come on, that was pretty good. So be aware of what you're putting in your mouth and into your mind, because that will also pull you off the path. Yeah? So as you're eating, as you're thinking, continue to come back to the awareness of God's presence. God is, I am. And you know what? When you live in that place, what you put in your mouth will be guided by wisdom and health. Yeah? And what you put in your mind will as well. Take a deep breath. The last thing that Buddha shared with me this morning is ask for regular support from a prayer partner if you are in need. In the moment, if you find yourself off the path, be conscious enough to say, oh my gosh, I'm off the path. Pick up the telephone, call, find a prayer partner. You have a great staff of chaplains, and practitioners, and ministers here, that when you need that help, you can't be ashamed to reach out and ask for it. So be aware when you find yourself falling off the path, for any of the reasons we've talked about so far, if you need support, ask for it. The great teacher said it so beautifully. He said, where 2 or more are gathered, there too am I. The Christ presence, the awareness of God. So when we come together with others in a prayerful mindset, we can actually make our lives a divine continuum of spiritual awareness by simply practicing praying with others on a regular basis. You get it? And if you don't think you have somebody that's willing to support you in that, you just look around this room right here. I'm thinking you could probably walk up to any one of these people after service and say, I need some support. You get it. And that's the power of Sangha, which is a Buddhist term for spiritual community. Originally, it was a term for monks and nuns who lived in a community. But the westernized version of this, Sangha, is spiritual community. It's where you're with people that you know have your back. Which is one of the reasons this spiritual community is so wonderful. And so oftentimes, like I said, I think I said it last week, we take things for granted. Be conscious, be present, be aware of the gifts that lie before you in this moment. Man, you're blessed in this community. Take advantage of it. Which also means giving back to it. Which Richard said earlier about it's tithing to time, talent, treasure. Okay, so and our last graphic here is the one that I just love. I have this on my computer screen at home by Hafiz. Stay close to anything that makes you feel alive. When you're in the awareness of your oneness with God, could you feel any more alive in that? No. Stay close to the awareness of your oneness with God. God is, I am. And so we enter into this spiritual continuum, if you will, and we make life a sacred continuum of the awareness of God's presence in a manner that keeps us on the pathway, moving higher and higher and higher. The awareness we are. It's easy to say, God is I am. It's a little more challenging to embody it, which means taking thoughts and turning them into feelings. So this is your chance today. Leave here with these tools. Be on the pathway. The view from the freeway, the flatlands, ain't that good. Rise and come forth. Higher consciousness, your life will never be the same. And I love you, and I'm honored as always to share time with you. Peace.